What you're seeing here is some of what John Bell Hood and his subordinate officers saw on the afternoon of November 30th. This at the time is a clear field. It is flat, rolling, open terrain. Columbia Pike, the main road here, runs right into downtown and across the river. By the time Hood gets here, it's about 1:30 in the afternoon, and he has now gotten word that the Federal Army is still here. Beyond what he can see, Nathan Bedford Forrest cavalry had arrived shortly before the van of the Army, and Forrest reports that the Federal Army has begun and completed a substantial line of defense. They have dug in just south of downtown. They've set up a defensive perimeter that's sort of crescent-shaped. It's about 1.5 miles long. It's centered at the Carter House. Both flanks are secured on the Harpeth River. About 15,000 men are on the main line. About 3,500 men are formed up on an advanced line about 1/2 mile in front. These are Wagner's 2 brigades. The 3rd Brigade, Emerson Updike's, moves inside the defensive perimeter to a spot just north of the Carter House. There is a full division of Union soldiers who have gotten across the river. T.J. Wood's division, 3,000, maybe 3,500 men. They're holding the road as it leads up to Nashville. All of the Union cavalry, about 5,000 of them, are east of the Harpeth River, holding the high ground in an effort to try to prevent any flanking maneuvers. The first thing I think that Hood and Forrest speak about is that Forrest wants to try a flanking maneuver. He says to Hood that if you give me a division of infantry, I can flank them out of their works in a short period of time. And here comes the rub with Franklin. Should Hood have made the decision to attack? Should he not have? I don't know. I think hindsight's always 20/20. That cavalry to the east of the river is going to be problematic. Later results show that Forrest had a hard time handling them anyways, because when the attack commences, Hood allowed 2 divisions of the cavalry to go around and sort of have a pincher attack in concert with the infantry. The Federal cavalry pushes Forrest back across the river. So it is a huge gamble, and what Hood decides to do, as you all know, is launch this massive frontal assault. 2 full Army corps, Stewart's Corps, Cheatham's Corps, form up. Cheatham's at the base of the hill, Claiborne's division on the other side of the road. Stewart's Corps fans out to the east. It is Stewart's men who would eventually sweep past Carnton. Cheatham's men are aimed right up the middle. And I think if you're John Bell Hood, you're weighing a number of factors. He doesn't think he can go east. It's late in the day. He knows he really can't move to the west. There's a big range of hills out here. He can see what looks to be evacuation procedures already underway. The wagons are beginning to move across the bridges by mid-afternoon. And I think Hood knows much of the game that Schofield is playing, which is he doesn't really want to fight. Schofield is just trying to stall for time. He's trying to hold Hood back. There's a meeting at the Harrison House just south of here shortly before the battle. Hood comes to Winstead Hill. He makes the decision to attack. And he and a number of his subordinate officers meet back at the Harrison House, and Hood lays out the plan. This is not met with any sort of approval. Frank Cheatham, Forrest, Claiborne, A.P. Stewart, they all voiced their concerns about attacking over this open ground. But there's one man who has to make the decision, and that's Hood. And we know what he decides to do. I'll end with this. One thing about Hood. If there was a weakness to the enemy's position, it was Wagner's advanced units. That is a huge tactical flaw. And Hood believes that if he can destroy that advanced line and overrun them and shove them into the defensive center, he could possibly break the Union line and destroy Schofield here with his back up against the river. And that's the gamble. And as it turns out, we know they do overrun that advanced line, and they do shove those men right into the heart of the Union defensive line. They rupture a huge hole. We'll talk a lot about, you'll hear a lot at the Carter House about how that hole was sealed. But this battle, and I cannot stress this enough, there is a period from about 4:30, this attack begins at 4 p.m., 19,000 Confederate soldiers moving forward. As Mr. Sword said this morning, an attack bigger than Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. I mean, it was a visual spectacle. Even the Union soldiers are spellbound by this. But in a very short period of time, all the horrors of war begin to unfold, because when they bowl over Wagner's guys and this massive rush begins toward the middle, they end up gashing a hole, the Southern Army does, that's about 150 to 200 yards wide, right in the middle. There is a period where the Union Army is nearly snapped in two, and this battle hangs in the balance. And it is only through this vicious counterattack launched by Emerson Opdyke's veterans, with great help from some recruits who found themselves in a terrible place on the secondary line, that they're able to seal this breach. And then, I think as Mr. Sword accurately talked about this morning, the bloodletting is just awful, because when the Confederates found that hole plugged, and they're now trapped in areas like the Carter Garden and trapped in the ditches outside these earthworks that were 5 to 6 feet tall, it just becomes a whole-scale slaughter. But it's from here that John Bell Hood made a decision that haunts him for the rest of his life. This is what Pickett's charge became to Robert E. Lee, an attack that you had to live with the results of this for the rest of your life. This was your decision, and you know that full well. This was your call.